Thanks, Philip. Glad you joined us today. Hope you're having a great weekend. My goal with the show is to interview our community leaders and individuals that help make Putnam County a great place to live. My guest this morning is one of those people, criminal court judge, Mr. Wesley Bray. Good morning, Wesley.
Good morning.
Glad to have you on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor.
For our listeners out there that may not know, you were appointed by Governor Lee.
I was.
Back in 2019 in the summer to fill...
July 8th, if you want to be specific.
July 8th, you've got the date down.
Not that we're
Well, we had a great
with it.
We had a great ceremony at the courthouse.
It was wonderful. Thank you for letting us have it there.
Absolutely. That's a very historic building, 120 years old, and I can't think of a better place.
It was a very humbling experience to see all of our friends and our family and all the people that, all the stakeholders, the people that have been involved around the community that have been involved since prior to 2014, all the way up through that date, and to just have everybody there, it was very humbling.
Great crowd, great group of individuals, the governor coming to Cookeville. Historic, maybe. I was trying to think back, I've been in Putnam County since 79. I was trying to think of another time when the governor...
79, that's 40 years.
Yeah, the governor appointed filled a judge position here. I'm not sure that I remember one.
I think Governor Blanton appointed Judge Burns as the criminal court judge. How long ago was that?
That's been before my time, so that goes back a long way. So, historic moment, but it was a great moment. And, of course, David Patterson, good friend of both you and I. And,
absolutely.
And a great judge, did a great job.
Great mentor. David Patterson taught me most of what I know about practicing law. I worked under him and Ben Fan. Tony Craighead, worked with Gary McKenzie, former district attorney Bill Gibson. Couldn't have asked for a better group of people. Couldn't have asked for the better support staff to teach you, because we all know that it's the ladies in our support staff that are in our offices, no matter what office it is, that takes care of all of us. And you're just like me. It's the ladies at home that take care of me too. I wouldn't be able to make it without my wife. Wouldn't have been able to make that journey without my wife. My family supported me through all that. Whether that be my wife and my children or my parents. You and I have a lot of similarities when it goes to growing up, and we both come from small counties. Yes, sir.
And farm life.
Yes, sir.
Give us a little bit of history on Wesley Bray and where you came from.
Well, I grew up in Clay County, Tennessee. I attended Salina High School. It's now the Clay County High School. Grew up if you know where Salina's at, I grew up on a small family farm in Moss, Tennessee. My grandfather, Wayne Head, he had a cattle farm there. We raised beef and tobacco. Spent a lot of time on the farm. Spent a lot of time with my hands in the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good time growing up. A lot of good experiences.
Different time though, wasn't it? I mean, I remember
very different.
It's sitting on the front porch in the late evenings, and it seemed like it took forever for it to get dark, and there wasn't a lot of the stresses of life that we have today. Our society's changed quite a bit since then, hasn't it?
It's the good old days.
It is. So, you came out of Salina High School. Tell us about your law practice. You had a very successful law practice.
We were very blessed. We were very blessed. We had a really good practice. I worked for the district attorney's office from 2002 to 2005. Prior to working at the district attorney's office, I worked for Avery Express. While I was still in college, they gave me a job. There was a year in between college and law school that I worked full-time for Avery Express, and I worked full-time for Avery Express during the first 2 years of law school because I attended the Nashville School of Law, which is traditionally a night law school.
Right.
It's a traditional night law school for those that are non-traditionally seeking a law license and law degree. And I worked for the district attorney's office. I actually called Bill Gibson. It was around Thanksgiving of 2001. And I remember sitting and thinking. I do a lot of that. I sit and I think, and I like to spend time by myself and, time in prayer, time in thought, time in meditation. And it came to me that I should reach out to the local district attorney's office. So I'm pretty sure it was the week of Thanksgiving. And I called and left a message for General Gibson, which, in retrospect, that's probably a pretty gutsy thing to do. Chance favors the bold, as they say.
Right.
And I called him, and he left a voicemail. He returned my phone call. I told him, I'd just be happy if I don't know anything about practicing law. I grew up as a farmer. That's something I love doing, but I'm in law school, and I need someone to teach me how to do this thing that I'm learning about during the daytime. And I told him, if you just give me a job sweeping floors, I'd be happy to hang out with you, sweep the floors, and maybe I can pick up on something. I interviewed with him. I could go through that interview process, and that's a wonderful story in and of itself that I can tell you some other time.
Okay.
But I was offered a job. I worked there for 3.5 years, tried a lot of cases. I tried over 33 jury trials when I worked for the state in that 3.5-year time period, which is a lot of cases. Back then, that time period, our court system was in a little different posture than it is now, and it was very easy for a young lawyer like myself or someone in law school with a limited law license to try cases because they were happy to let me go to court and try those cases.
Right.
And I did that, and then in the spring of 2000, of course, they hired me in 2001 or the very beginning of 2002, and while I was going around and learning about how to be a lawyer, I met my wife. She worked as a waitress at the Apple Dish in Livingston, and I can still remember the first time that I went in there and saw her, and she and I laugh about it all the time. I don't think neither one of us really were very impressed nor liked the other upon our first meeting, but that's been 17, almost 18 years ago now.
Well,
I met my wife, and I was 25. I was single. I was in law school, had a good job. I was not looking to get married. And when I met my wife, it was like a light switch.
I know that I had that same feeling.
And we met in the spring, and we married in the fall of the same year. And that's been almost 18 years ago. 3 blessed and beautiful children, and I can't complain about it. I left the district attorney's office in 2005, came out into private practice. I was on the square where Laurie Sieber's law office is now. It was Henry Fincher's law office before that. Mm-hmm. And I practiced law there. I ran for criminal court judge in 2014, came up a little short.
That was a very close election.
It was a close election. But the Lord's got a plan and a purpose. And the Wesley Bray that ran in 2014 had not been through some of the baptisms of fire and the thing.
It wasn't your time yet.
It wasn't the time. It just wasn't that time.
And I have to say I admire you for the way that you handled that situation. Some folks would they'd either been mad for the rest of their life or they'd have crawled under a rock somewhere and you never saw them anymore. But you handled that so well that I knew that the good Lord had something in store for you. It was just going to have to wait and be patient on that. And it wasn't necessarily me handling it well. It was the Lord had his hand on us. Right. I've always said that I'm a goal-orientated problem solver. If I have a goal to work toward, I can focus on that goal and I can work toward it. When I don't have a project or something to focus on, I probably can be a little more difficult to deal with than when I've got something to focus on. We have to wait on the Lord and Lord's plan and purpose. His timing is perfect. Absolutely. We're talking with Wesley Bray today. He is our criminal court judge. You're listening to Today in Putnam County on News Talk 107.7 and 1400 The Hub. I'm County Mayor Randy Porter. Stay with us. More with Wes. Welcome back to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter. Hope you're having a great weekend. My guest today is Criminal Court Judge Wesley Bray, who was appointed by Governor Lee this past summer to be our criminal court judge here in Putnam County, and we're thankful that he was appointed. And Wes, we were talking about your history, your life history, and law practice and serving prosecution, defense. You've been on all sides now. I guess my question is what made you want to become a judge? Well, I've had that question posed to me several times, just probably as if you've been asked, why did you want to be county mayor? What led you to that? And I truly believe that the Lord has a plan and purpose for all of us. And I've always, I quote Judge Turnbull all the time. And that quote is one of the first things I remember him saying from the bench was that it's a lawyer's job to help people with problems that they can't solve on their own. They come to us, they come to lawyers to solve those problems. And I feel that it's my job to help people with their problems. And that's what I still feel like that I'm doing at this point. Now, I may, there's some things that I no longer have control over, but there's a bunch of other things now that I have absolute control over. And I think that helps me to maybe help people with their problems. Maybe, I was raised, I'm a fan of corporal punishment. Right. I've learned some of the best lessons that I've ever had in my life
or when I've got my hand slammed in the door. You know,
Right.
you learn real quick not to put your hand in the door. And sometimes, you know, we all learn from mistakes in different ways. You know, we're all
Right.
different. You know, we all have different things that get our attention. I think that the Lord this was a plan and a purpose, and it was a calling, and that's where we're at. So
I agree. So I want to ask, you've been on the prosecution and defense, all of it. What's the hardest part about being a judge on a day-to-day basis? I know what I probably have in my mind that I would think is the hardest, but what would you say is the toughest part of your job?
that you see people that don't learn from their mistakes. That you see, you know, there's a verse in Proverbs that I always relate to people that can't learn from their mistakes. That says they stumble around in the dark.
Yeah.
And they just don't realize it. And the thing that you want to try and do is, I guess, bring people into the light. You know, get them to where they need to be to understand. Because most people will age out of the system. You know, Judge McKenzie and I are the criminal court judges for the 7-county 13th Judicial District. And we only deal with and see people that are charged with criminal cases.
Right.
We don't hear civil matters. We don't hear divorce. We don't hear property. All we deal with are people that are breaking the law. And, you know, some people age out of being in our court when they're 18 or 19, and then you have some people that are in their 60s and 70s that still are they're stumbling around the dark. And that's what hurts me the most, because you see people that, you know, the Lord gives us all different blessings and different talents.
Right.
And I think that wasted blessings and wasted talents are probably the saddest thing that I see.
I agree.
You know, because I think of all the changes and the positive things we could have in our lives, in our world, if we all used our talents and our blessings to the best of our ability.
That's right. And, you know, in serving, as I did in EMS and 911 and coroner, I always said that I probably saw more bad stuff in one day than most people see in a lifetime.
Absolutely.
I think you fall into that same, you're on a day-to-day basis with seeing the worst of the worst. People always ask, does that bother you, Randy? Well, actually, no, it never did. I felt like I had that gift that God gave me to be able to handle it, and He had.
Because otherwise, you become jaded.
Yes.
And if you don't have that blessing, you don't use it,
you become that hardened, jaded person that I don't think you do your job very well. We're talking with Wesley Bray today, our criminal court judge. Wes is thinking about the judgeship. I think about, in a lot of your cases, I know you have jury trials, and you've got juries that are making the decisions.
I have a bench trial coming up, and several jury trials that are set this next month.
So the bench trial, where it's your decision.
It is.
Or when you're sentencing someone, and maybe the law gives you anything from parole to whatever, 20 years, whatever it is that tough on deciding as to what that person is going to get and what kind of sentence you're going to give?
Well, back in 2014, when we all ran together, we were all running at the same time.
Yes.
I always envied the district attorney's office, because whenever Bryant Dunaway and Sean Fry, whenever they would have, or Tony Craighead, he was the Democratic nominee, whenever they would have their debates, you know, they'd get to talk about all these things and what they thought personally.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about being the judge is that when you run for judge, and as a judge, the only answer that you can give to any of those things under the law is that you'll be fair and impartial, and you'll apply the law. And those constraints are exactly that. They're constraints. But I feel like that we have good options about, you know, we can give someone unsupervised probation all the way up to taking their liberty away for whatever time period the law prescribes. And we've got things that we have to follow. You know, we've got laws, we've got case law, we've got just regular laws that it's passed by the legislature. They change those things all the time. You know, the DUI statute is inches thicker than the homicide statute.
I don't know how you keep up with all of it.
Well, you dig in and you do it. You know, it's just part of the job. Just like I don't see how you put together a budget. I don't see how you do that for the county. That's the most amazing thing in the world. I've came to the county commission meetings, and I've sat there and listened, and I was always drawn to what I'm doing right now.
Right.
I have thought in the past about running for Senate. That's right. I've thought about running for the House of Representatives, both at the federal level.
Right.
But I'm out of that game right now.
You're where you need to be.
I'm where I feel complete. I feel like I'm where I need to be until the Lord changes my mind, or until my children are out of school and I can focus on something like that more.
Absolutely. You're listening to Today in Putnam County, News Talk 107.7, 1400 The Hub. We're having a great conversation this morning with our criminal court judge, Wesley Bray. I'm County Mayor Randy Porter. Stay with us after this quick. Welcome back to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter. I hope you're having a great weekend. My special guest today is criminal court judge Wesley Bray, and we're talking about what it's like to be a judge and his career that he's had, a great career in the legal system. Not
very
only,
blessed.
and yes, you've been very blessed, and on the prosecution side, the defense side, and now on the judge side. One thing, Wes, that we have, and it's nationwide, it's not just here in Putnam County, we have a drug problem.
We do.
And I think I kind of divide it into two separate sides. You've got the illegal drugs, and then you've got the legal prescription drugs. You see this on a day-to-day basis. I had Sheriff Ferris on last week, and we were talking that he came up with a stat with like 90% or something of the people that are incarcerated, some way drugs are involved. They were either taking them when they did the offense, they were making drugs, they were selling drugs or something. And I haven't found a really good answer for the solution to our problem. What do you see on your end, and what's your thoughts about it?
Well, we definitely have an opioid crisis in this area. We definitely have a lot of methamphetamine problems. You know, I remember when I first got involved that there were a lot of people making their bathtub-type methamphetamine.
Oh, yeah.
And then that transitioned into the shake-and-bake method. And, you know, I actually took a plea yesterday on a gentleman that was using and making methamphetamine in the shake-and-bake method, which you just don't see that anymore.
No.
You don't see anybody doing that.
No.
What you see is clear, pharmaceutical-grade methamphetamine that is coming illegally across our borders. That's what we see now.
Wow.
We have a major problem with the cartels just pumping pharmaceutical-grade methamphetamine that's made overseas, that's made somewhere else, that just comes across our borders.
And that's an issue we have with our borders. So you got all those illegal drugs coming in, and I just saw
and we got prescription, you know.
Yes.
We got prescription issues too. You know, we've got, but then I think a lot of that gets back to, we've got people, we could talk about this all day, our different issues that we have. I think we could probably do a 3 or 4 day show nonstop
just
on
so
that.
too.
But, you know, you got different people from different socioeconomic backgrounds that are selling their prescription medication to eat, which that person, you know, to eat, to survive on, to buy clothes, to take care of their children.
Right.
Or you've got grandparents that are raising their grandchildren because mom and dad have used methamphetamine and they're gone for the next 8 to 12 years in the state penitentiary.
So I just read a news article today at lunch. A doctor, I think was in Oneida somewhere, the feds had come in and got him, and he prescribed like 4.7 million pain pills.
And they may have been filled at our pharmacies that were in Salina that the feds came in and shut down a couple months ago. You know, there were, I think, 3 pharmacies there within a, you know, half a square mile area that the feds came in and shut down. Of course, you know, you're innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
But they came in, they shut them down for various reasons, various allegations. I mean, there's a lot of pain pills. There's a lot of medication that's out there that's abused and misused. There's a lot of illegal drugs. One of the drugs that's coming in, and one of my former clients that I did a divorce for died from an overdose of it very shortly after I was appointed to the bench. He died from an overdose of heroin. Big, healthy man. Used heroin for the first time, and it was laced with fentanyl.
Wow.
And it killed him dead. You know, he was probably 6'4", 6'5", 250, 260 pound, good size, healthy man.
We're seeing that all the time.
And it killed him dead.
our paramedics and our law enforcement officers are having to be very careful, and because you can just get the fentanyl on your skin and you're wiped out, you're gone.
I remember having people that were charged with taking pain patches, the fentanyl patches, off of other individuals and using them in however manner they chose.
We saw them taking them off of deceased people doing that. It's sad.
It's sad, very sad.
We have a huge jail overcrowding problem. We have a court system overcrowding. The sheriff said the other day he thought about 97,000 people came through the Justice Center, Putnam Justice Center.
I believe it.
2019. You and I were just talking earlier off the air. You had a 65-page docket.
65-page docket
in one day.
I worked through a 65-page readout docket yesterday.
I mean,
and had a couple of sentencing hearings and some other hearings at the end of it. So.
I mean, that's just amazing. We've got to do some renovations and some additions to our system. But where does keep hearing things with the governor and stuff about criminal justice reform, and you hear it on the federal level and stuff. Any ideas of where that goes? I mean, is there something right now that you can think of we can do that would just help the situation?
Well, I am happy to have any other sorts of tools that we can have in our toolbox to decide how to help people with their problems. I look forward to having whatever laws those are. I'm not sure what it looks like at this point. I don't know that the federal system's perfect. I don't know that that's the place that we should look to for answers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that anybody really has the perfect answer at this point, because Tennessee is 95 counties. And even though we are combined into one state of those 95 counties, every county that you go to is different.
Yes.
Even though we're all under the same laws, the things that are maybe acceptable or more commonplace in one county is not commonplace in another county, nor acceptable. And I'm not just talking about in our district. I'm talking about different places across the state. Just look at marijuana, for example. Nashville, Davidson County, they decriminalized a small amount of marijuana years ago. Whereas here, we still realize that marijuana is against the law, and it's something that they get prosecuted for.
Right.
So, it just depends on where you're at as to how what that reform looks like and where we are.
The attitudes of people.
And the attitudes of people. What's acceptable to one group of people is not acceptable to another.
In the community.
Yes, sir.
One thing I want to hit on for sure, but before we run out of time, you were appointed last year. It's kind of an odd situation. You were appointed to fill the unexpired term of Judge Patterson.
Yes.
So did that make you have to turn around and run in the upcoming election?
I did.
And you ran unopposed.
I'm unopposed.
Which I totally suggest. I think that's probably the best way to run.
Good way to run.
And I'm kidding, folks.
Good way to run.
But then once you run again, you have to run again with us then in 2022 again. Mm-hmm. And the judgeships are 8-year terms?
It's an 8-year term. Yes, sir.
A lot of campaigning coming up for you over the next couple of years.
I don't, and again, we talked about earlier about the Lord having a plan and a purpose, and I don't know that I've ever really stopped campaigning.
Yeah.
I probably had dialed it back a little bit, but we kept working, and, because the Lord puts that work in front of you to do, and you just got to open your eyes and see it. And, you can't, I know I say this all the time, but I want maybe it touches somebody out there's heart that needs to hear it. But the Lord brings blessings and trials to you. It rains on the just and the unjust.
That's right.
And there's we may not see the reason or why. And you may look at your life and think, well, why am I at this point right now? It's because the Lord has a plan for you.
Absolutely.
And I couldn't do these things without my wife. I'd be remiss to not thank her, and I appreciate her greatly.
None of us could without those.
That's the truth. But, when you look back on how things played out, you can't connect the dots looking forward. But when you look back, you can see where, the Lord had a plan and a purpose for each and everything that happened. And when you look back, you can see it. And if you can't see it yet, then maybe you're just not to that point. You're not to that point, and you have to walk on faith. That's one of the things that I pray every day when I leave is, Lord, send me where I need to go. Let me do what I need to do. Whatever that is, I trust you. And I know a lot of people think that, how do you live that life? I couldn't imagine living my life another way.
Me neither.
And I tell my children that all the time. I was raised Church of Christ. I'm still Church of Christ, and I'm trying to instill that in my children. But I think that, you can teach it, but until you've got to go through some of those baptisms before you really understand that it's there and it's real.
You got to practice what you preach.
Practice what you preach, yes, sir.
Wes, thank you so much for being on the show today.
We're already done?
It ends so quick. It really does.
I appreciate you having me on here today.
Absolutely, and I appreciate the great job you're doing as a judge. I'm
proud
you're there.
Appreciate the great job you're doing.
Well, thank you. That's our show for today. I want to thank Wesley Bray for being on our show today as a new criminal court judge. Hope you join us every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. and Sunday afternoon at 2 for Today in Putnam County on News Talk 107.7 and 1400 The Hub. You can also download the WHUB app and listen to us on your cell phone. If you missed any of the shows, go to my website at randyporter.org. I'm County Mayor Randy Porter, hoping you have a great rest of your weekend, and may God continue to bless our great county.